Chris had just walked out of prison after serving a long sentence, and the first thought in his mind was to see his daughter again. But as he climbed into a car, the driver had other plans. Instead of offering a ride, the man intended to kill Chris and steal whatever property he still had left. "Where's the money?" the driver demanded. "You've already been paid in full," Chris muttered back. The confrontation ended abruptly, leaving the driver lifeless. Chris grabbed his own bag from the dirt, rifled through the man's pockets, and found the car keys. He wasn't about to walk the rest of the way. Sliding behind the wheel, he drove toward the city where his daughter now lived. Outside a lavish villa, he hid in the shadows, waiting. Soon, a sleek car emerged carrying Elisa, the daughter of Vicente, a ruthless mafia boss. Once the vehicle was far enough down the road, Chris followed. On the main highway, he noticed a beggar cleaning windows at a stoplight. An idea struck. At the next intersection, Chris disguised himself as a beggar, approaching Elisa's car with feigned humility. The bodyguard inside waved him away, but Chris ignored the signals, wiping at the glass anyway. When he finished, he tapped on the window, hand out for payment. The guard dismissed him again. In an instant, Chris smashed the rearview mirror, jolting everyone inside. Within moments, chaos erupted. He blocked Elisa's path, forcing her into panic. As she bolted from the car, Chris chased her down, grabbed her, and shoved her into the back of his truck. He sped away just seconds before the bodyguard could catch up. When Vicente heard that his daughter had been taken, fury consumed him. He could not believe someone dared to touch his blood. In rage, he beat one of his men with his cane before ordering every soldier under his command to spread the word. There would be a massive reward for Elisa's return. Meanwhile, Chris kept driving, Elisa thrashing in the truck, pounding against the metal walls. He finally pulled over. She bolted, but he chased her into the trees. "I don't want to hurt you," Chris insisted. "I just need to talk." To prove it, he pulled out a photograph, a picture of himself with her parents, taken years ago. Elisa froze. Shock rippled across her face. How could a man who once stood beside her parents betray her like this? Chris explained in a low, urgent voice. Her mother had died 5 years earlier, but before her death, she had made him promise. If anything ever happened, he was to find Elisa and take her far from Vicente's grip. Elisa didn't believe him. His words meant nothing without proof. Desperate to earn her trust, Chris handed her a gun. "If you don't believe me," he said, "take it. Protect yourself." Elisa's eyes narrowed. "If it's real, then you won't mind if I try it." She aimed. Chris assumed she was bluffing. He was wrong. She pulled the trigger. A click, no bullets. Chris exhaled. As if fate wanted to complicate things, the car's fuel gauge hit empty. He stopped at a roadside station to refuel. While his attention was turned, Elisa dashed to a nearby payphone. She dialed her father. Just as the line connected, Chris stormed in, cut the call, and dragged her back to the car, this time binding her hands so she couldn't cause more trouble. Still, she refused to be silent. "Who are you to tell me what to do?" "You're not my father." Chris stopped cold. He looked at her with a piercing gaze. "Yes, I am. I am your real father." Elisa faltered, doubt flashing across her face. Throughout their tense journey, no matter how defiant she became, Chris had never struck her, never truly harmed her. Perhaps, just perhaps, he was telling the truth. For the first time, she stopped resisting when Chris took her into a small roadside restaurant. They sat across from each other in silence. Back at Vicente's mansion, the boss fumed. He knew his daughter was alive, but he had no idea where she had been taken. Worse, he didn't realize one of his closest men was betraying him, feeding information directly to Corvo, an assassin Vicente had once left crippled. Years ago, Vicente had badly wounded Corvo, costing him an arm. Now, his own assistant was conspiring with Corvo to kidnap Elisa, paving the way to eliminate Vicente and seize control of the empire. At the restaurant, Elisa finally broke the silence. "If you're really my father, where have you been all these years?" Chris hesitated. "It's complicated." 15 years of complicated. He didn't elaborate. Instead, his eyes lingered on the necklace around her neck, a diamond pendant he once gave to her mother on her birthday, long ago. The mention of her mother stirred old wounds. "You're lying," Elisa snapped. "Vicente told me she was killed." Before Chris could answer, the sound of guns being cocked shattered the air. Armed men surrounded them, mercenaries lured by Vicente's enormous bounty. Gunfire erupted outside. Tires shredded, windows shattered, and in the chaos, Elisa was dragged away, forced into another vehicle as Chris fought desperately to hold them off. By the time he staggered outside, the car carrying her was already disappearing into the night. She was delivered to a local gang boss named Bona. Hungry for reward money, Bona immediately called Vicente, claiming he had Elisa in his custody. But Elisa wasn't rushing into her father's arms. Instead, she asked him with trembling suspicion, "Did you have something to do with Mama's death?" Vicente was momentarily stunned, then coldly denied it. "I did everything for her. I never wanted her gone," but before the conversation could go further, the building shook. Corvo had arrived. Even with only one arm, Corvo was more terrifying than ever. He tore through Bona's men like they were paper dolls, his mechanical limb a weapon of precision and brutality. Panic spread through the gang. Bona himself fled to call reinforcements, but it was pointless. His empire crumbled in minutes. Elisa, cornered, grabbed a gun and aimed at Corvo's back. But he turned, sensing her presence. She froze under his gaze. The killer smiled, almost amused. He always had one ritual before slaughtering his prey, offering them an apple. He extended it to her. With trembling defiance, Elisa took a bite. He grinned as if pleased before whispering coldly, "Run." She bolted into the corridors, only to find dead ends closing in. Corvo's shadow loomed, unstoppable. But before he could finish her, gunfire rattled. Bona had returned, desperate and furious. Sparks lit the air as bullets ricocheted, forcing Chris, who had fought his way into the compound, to leap through a window to avoid the storm. Bona fired wildly, only for Corvo to rip off his prosthetic arm and lunge, a predator dismantling its prey. Elisa's bravery in the chaos bought a few precious seconds. Chris reached her, dragging her into the night. By the time Vicente arrived with his soldiers, it was too late. Bodies lay everywhere, the building reduced to a massacre. On a grainy security feed, he saw Corvo's face. The ghost of his past had returned. Chris and Elisa fled. On the road, he revealed more of the truth, his history with her mother, Vicente, and the crimes they committed together. They had once been inseparable, partners in every heist. But when Elisa's mother fell pregnant, Chris wanted out. Vicente betrayed him instead, planting evidence that put Chris behind bars for 15 years. Still, Elisa refused to believe Vicente had killed her mother. Her heart wavered between the two men. Meanwhile, Corvo stitched up his wounds in eerie silence, sewing flesh like it was nothing more than broken machinery. He stole another car and resumed the hunt. Elisa, still resistant, tried to break away from Chris again, only to fall directly into Corvo's grasp. The nightmare closed in. Corvo captured them both, tying Elisa to a car and stringing Chris upside down in front of an abandoned church. Vicente arrived, the air thick with hatred. Old allies had become enemies. Chris demanded the truth, but Vicente remained vague until Corvo forced his hand. Knife at Vicente's throat, he demanded a confession. Trembling, Vicente admitted the unthinkable. He had ordered Elisa's mother killed when she tried to leave him. The revelation shattered Elisa. Her cries echoed as the crusher machine roared to life, dragging her closer to death. Vicente clawed at levers and switches, even tried to saw through chains to free her, but nothing worked. Chris, bloodied and staggering, fought Corvo with every ounce of strength. Blades clashed, fists slammed, and wounds tore open. Corvo mocked him, laughing that he had believed Vicente was the real killer all along. With rage boiling inside him, Chris struck with fury, ignoring his pain. But Corvo's blade pierced his stomach, sending him crashing to the ground. Elisa screamed as the machine pulled her to the brink. In desperation, she ripped the necklace from her neck, the one tied to her mother's memory, and hurled it into the gears. The crusher screeched, jammed, and fell silent. Father and daughter collapsed together, battered but alive. For the first time, Elisa looked at Chris not as a stranger, but as the man who had risked everything for her. Her walls finally broke. Later, they stood before her mother's grave. Chris was covered in scars, but he had survived. Somehow fate refused to separate them again. From that day forward, Elisa and Chris chose to walk together. A daughter finally reunited with her true father, ready to build a new life beyond the shadows of Vicente and Corvo. The story ends here.